It had been a lively country music festival, but all of a sudden, fierce winds began to roar. The crowd had no idea that a disaster was silently approaching with the music. At first, the rain tarp was blown away by the wind. Then, the stage trusses started to shake violently.
Everybody back! Get back!
Within seconds, the entire stage collapsed, and things only got worse. A massive tornado was sweeping straight toward the venue. After receiving the emergency call, Station 113 of the fire department rushed to the scene. The area was already in complete chaos. Fierce winds and heavy rain battered from every direction. Backup had not yet arrived, but the tornado was already less than 2 miles away. The band's lead singer, Kane Brown, managed to escape, but others were trapped beneath the fallen trusses. It was unclear how many victims were still pinned down. Rescue couldn't begin unless the entire collapsed stage was cleared. For now, they had to rely on manual winches and pulley systems. By the time the rescue teams arrived, the tornado was less than 10 minutes out. Citywide alarms blared. Everyone was ordered to seek shelter indoors. However, one little girl's father had collapsed on the ground, unconscious. On-site diagnosis revealed clear signs of tachycardia. When they cut open his shirt, they found his neck veins dangerously swollen, a sign that blood couldn't flow back to the heart. His lungs were struggling to re-inflate, and immediate decompression was needed. Every second counted. The tornado was visibly growing larger. As soon as the air was released, the man's veins returned to normal. Moments later, he regained consciousness. Using thermal detection, they located 8 victims trapped under the debris, but the pulleys couldn't handle the enormous weight. The motor overheated and burned out. The truss crashed to the ground again. Without a crane, the rescue mission seemed impossible. From beneath the wreckage came desperate screams. The tornado was now only 5 minutes away. Dispatcher Cami from 911 advised immediate evacuation. But what about the trapped victims? The only option left was to lift the truss by hand. Hearing the command, all firefighters gathered together. Time meant life. Every person saved could be one less tragedy. The captain shouted, 1, 2, 3! The team strained with all their might, but the heavy truss didn't move an inch. Seeing this, Kane Brown called out to the crowd taking shelter, urging everyone to come and help. Despite the cold rain, people, men, women, and children alike, ran out to join the rescue. In moments like this, only unity could overcome despair. Miraculously, they managed to lift the truss just enough to create a gap. The captain quickly ordered the firefighters to pull the victims out one by one. Then came a warning from the dispatcher. The tornado was almost overhead. The captain told civilians to retreat into the shelter, while the firefighters stayed to continue searching. Finally, they heard the final victim calling for help, a pyrotechnician named Manny, stranded on top of the scaffold. The tornado was nearly there. Time was running out. As the firefighters climbed the ladder, a massive black whirlwind surged toward them with terrifying force. A tech billionaire named Trip Hauser was kayaking out at sea while attending a company board meeting through video call. But suddenly, he got swallowed by a whale. Everyone in the meeting froze, completely shocked and speechless. No one knew whether to be happy or sad. All they could really do was call 911. Luckily, the whale that swallowed Trip was a humpback whale, a filter-feeding mammal with no teeth and a very small throat. It couldn't possibly swallow a grown man, so it only held Trip in its mouth temporarily. Fortunately, Trip had a satellite phone with him while kayaking, so firefighters were able to stay in contact with him. But honestly, there wasn't much they could do, except tell him to slow down his breathing and save oxygen. They tracked the whale's location through the phone signal, but the real problem was how to get him out. Buck mentioned that he once saw a documentary about whales. After surfacing, humpback whales often spit out anything indigestible. However, they could stay underwater for up to 45 minutes, and in Trip's condition, he might not last even 10. The only option was to force the whale to surface. Interim Captain Chim came up with an idea. Since whales were extremely sensitive to sound, they could try using noise to force it up. As for how to send the noise underwater, he had a plan for that too. They grabbed a parking cone and placed it over the fire truck siren, connected it to a gated Y, then attached a fire hose. When the siren was turned on, the 120 decibel sound would travel down into the ocean. With Chim's command, Ravi opened the valve, and Eddie hit the siren. The loud noise quickly reached the whale's ears. Meanwhile, Trip's condition was worsening. With oxygen running out, he began to lose consciousness. Luckily, Chim's plan worked. The humpback whale, disturbed by the sound, rose to the surface and spat out the foreign object in its mouth. Eddie immediately dove into the sea without hesitation, and Trip was finally rescued. After a round of CPR, Trip regained consciousness. Back at the office, his employees sighed in relief. It looked like they didn't have to worry about the company going bankrupt just yet. At a children's birthday party, a girl named Faith received a birthday gift from her Aunt Gabby, a kite. While they were flying the kite, something incredible happened. Faith was caught in a gust of wind and was lifted high into the air. Gabby frantically dialed 911 for help, and dispatcher Cammy answered the call and coordinated the rescue. At first, Cammy suggested using a bed sheet as an improvised net to catch Faith, but the strong wind blew the sheet away. Then she quickly organized the adults at the scene to join hands and form a human net, and together they successfully caught Faith safely as she landed back on the ground. A young man named Blue was a stripper. That night, after finishing his dance, he went to the back alley to rest. Just then, a pedal tavern carrying a group of bachelorette partiers rolled down the nearby street. All the girls were singing and drinking excitedly. Among them was Amy, a slightly chubby girl who began to feel a bit sick. She said, "I shouldn't have eaten that hot chicken earlier." No one paid much attention, and they kept pedaling hard. Then Amy started coughing uncontrollably. The bride-to-be Molly asked with concern, "Are you okay?" When Amy didn't respond, everyone realized something was wrong. They quickly stopped the car. The driver got off to check Amy's condition, but right at that moment,
Oh my God! Amy, you're so vile. You know you love it.
the party resumed. The girls kept pedaling, and the cart rolled downhill. They didn't notice one serious problem. The driver hadn't gotten back on the vehicle yet. As a result, the pedal tavern went out of control and crashed into a car. That shocking scene was witnessed by Blue, the stripper from earlier. At the crash site, the bride-to-be Molly was severely injured. Her leg was pinned under the cart, bleeding heavily. The situation was critical, but the rescue team hadn't arrived yet. Blue saw what happened and said, "We gotta stop the bleeding." He then took out a bottle of oil that looked like lubricant and rubbed it directly on Molly's leg. The girls asked what kind of oil it was. Blue said, "It's stripper oil." Amy then shouted, "What kind of fireman are you?" Blue didn't say a word. He smoothly helped Molly slide out from under the cart. To stop the bleeding, Blue took off his shirt, pulled out his belt, and tied it tightly around Molly's leg, making a simple but effective tourniquet. Just then, the fire department finally arrived and took over the rescue. Captain Don Hart was shocked by Blue's quick first aid actions. At that moment, he also realized Blue was actually his long-lost son. Later, Blue showed up at the fire station, and Don offered him a job as a cadet. Firehouse 51 received an emergency call they initially thought was a fire incident. When they arrived on the scene, they found the situation was much more complicated. The location involved a burning truck and a gas station that had been affected. Eventually, the burning truck came to a stop after an accident. When the firefighters reached the gas station, they found an injured woman. After checking, they realized her injuries were severe. A man came forward and said he was the one who called 911. He told them he had seen her being attacked by two men in a pickup truck. Meanwhile, the other firefighters quickly put out the truck fire. Paramedic Mikami rushed over to check the driver's condition. Looking at the badly burned man, Mikami shook her head in disappointment and said, "I gotta tag this black and get to the other patient." Back at the gas station, Lieutenant Severide noticed the woman had a gash on the back of her head. He said she had been attacked by two guys from that truck. Mikami frowned and said there was only one person inside the burning truck. Severide instantly realized something was wrong. It seemed one of the attackers had escaped. Suddenly, he spotted a wounded man nearby. When the man saw Severide, he panicked and started running. Severide lunged forward and tackled him to the ground. Just then, the police finally arrived. Thanks to Severide's bravery, the second attacker was handed over to the cop. Not long after, the firefighters received another call, this time about a house fire. But when they arrived at the location, there were no signs of any fire at all. Crews suspected it might just be a bunch of kids messing around, but Lieutenant Kidd didn't want to take any chances. He ordered the crew to split up and check the area. At that moment, paramedic Mikami spotted a staggering man walking out of the shadows. The man muttered, "He shot me," before collapsing to the ground from a gunshot wound. Suddenly, a black car sped toward them. Men inside the car opened fire on the firefighters. They quickly shielded the wounded man to protect him from the bullets. Luckily, the black car soon sped away, and none of the firefighters were hurt. Mikami immediately started performing CPR on the man. Crews came over and asked if anyone had seen the shooters. To everyone's surprise, the new firefighter Vasquez confidently described the car model and even the driver's appearance. This made the others look at him with newfound respect. Novak cut open the man's t-shirt and pressed her finger on the bullet wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. The man gritted his teeth in pain. After a quick bandage, they rushed him into the ambulance. By that time, there was still no sign of the police. It was clear that in this understaffed and slow-to-respond Chicago, the firefighters had to take on quasi-law enforcement roles, managing the scene, protecting victims, and maintaining security until the cops arrived.